Well, howdy folks, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, making another video for you out of Boise, Idaho. And what we're looking at here is a 2003 Hyundai Accent with a 1.6 liter engine. Remember, you can always look underneath the hood and find the information. Well, I say always. In most cases, if somebody hasn't removed your vehicle emission control information or sticker from under the hood, you can always go underneath there and find it. So 2003 Hyundai Accent 1.6 liter engine, and this vehicle came in needing some service. It wouldn't pass inspection. It's received the new coil packs, new fuel injectors per the cylinders that were misfiring. It still has a misfire. It's way overdue for a timing belt, and so we went ahead and decided to do a timing job on it and see if that's why it won't pass inspection, because basically it's just one of those situations where it just simply won't pass inspections. Sometimes you can get away with changing a timing belt if you've done everything else under the sun in order to get it to work. Sometimes a stretched timing belt causes valves not to open and close properly. Won't necessarily make the engine run bad or anything, but you know, emissions might be a little off or something like that. So that's ultimately why we're doing it. And then of course, once we started to question whether it could be a minor timing issue, just needs some service, that's when we started looking in and realizing that per mileage and actual years, it's pretty well overdue for a timing belt. I think it's been like 4 years since it's had the timing belt serviced on it. So that's why we're doing it. So the best place to start on the Hyundai Accent with a 1.6 liter engine, if you're going to service the timing, is to go ahead and if you have an engine support bar, go ahead and use the engine support bar, and you're going to hook up right there. There'll be a support right here that you can hook up to and support your engine. That's because you're going to have to take the motor mount off, and you want to go ahead and do that. Now, factory procedure will actually tell you to go ahead and use a block of wood and go underneath with a jack and support the engine like that. I really don't like using blocks of wood if I don't have to support engines. That's because I've accidentally punched a hole in an oil pan, and I've accidentally punched a hole in a transmission pan before. So if you want a surefire way not to punch a hole in one of your oil or transmission pans or to cause any damage, go ahead and just get an engine support bar. You can get them from Harbor Freight. They're pretty cheap, and they'll save you a lot of headaches. So once you've gone ahead and got your engine supported, don't forget to disconnect your battery. You can do either one first. Disconnect the battery, get your engine supported, or engine supported, disconnect battery. Either or, that's going to be your first step. Then from there, you're going to want to drain the coolant out, because if you're going to be replacing the timing belt and everything, you might as well go ahead and replace the water pump. So as you know, I like to use a left to right or a right to left working method. So using the left to right working method, starting with our battery, supporting our engine, the next step will be to remove our radiator cap and drain our radiator. Once we've got all of our coolant drained out, then go ahead, and this is where you're going to get your sockets out. Now you're going to want anywhere between 8mm on up to 22mm sockets. Again, that's 8mm on up to 22mm sockets to do this job. You're going to start here at your power steering pump. And if you notice, I don't have my power steering pump disconnected, so I haven't lost any power steering fluid or anything like that. I just simply unbolted it from the engine, and I've got it sitting right up here on the reservoir, nice and out of the way. Now, in order to get that power steering pump off, you're also going to have to disconnect your alternator. You don't have to remove it, just disconnect it from its adjustable tensioner. And this is also how you're going to get your belt off, is by taking this apart, so that way you can lift it up, pull your belt off, and then just let your alternator sit there. Now, since you're going to go ahead and change your water pump, go ahead and pull this arm off, and that's going to be a 12mm bolt right there. Yeah, just go ahead and get rid of this arm. For installation purposes, obviously go ahead and reinstall it. Now once you've got your alternator and that belt out of the way, go ahead and get the pulley for your water pump out of the way. Then go ahead and work your way over here to your engine mount. And you're going to go ahead and get your engine mount out of the way. Remember, you're in good shape because you've got your engine supported. So no worries there. On the car side, you're going to completely pull it out first. At this point, you won't have your timing covers off yet, so don't worry about this mount. Then you're going to go back down here underneath your AC compressor. And there's your idler tensioner for your secondary belt. Go ahead and get that loosened and get your secondary belt off. And then once you've done that, you can go ahead and come up here and you're going to take out your 4 spark plugs starting with cylinder number 1. Get rid of your coils. Go ahead and pull, if you haven't already done it, your mount from the car side. Get that out of the way. And then you're going to use 10mm sockets and you're going to get your timing cover off. And go ahead and also, before you get your timing cover off, you should be able to get your crankshaft harmonic balancer off. Now that's going to be a 22mm socket. Let's see if I've got it sitting here somewhere. Right here. Okay. So this is going to be a 22mm socket and bolt. And then once you've got that off, your crank or your harmonic balancer or your crank pulley, you should be able to just honestly grab it and pull it off by hand. There is no place to use a tool and grab that. Hold on, guys. Hold on just a second. You guys calling me? Okay. All right. Hold on a second. Tell you what, I gotta pause it right here real quick. I got a kiddo that wants some ketchup for his corny dog. So I'll leave you with that 22mm socket to get that harmonic balancer off. Then you'll have access to your timing cover, 10mm bolts to pull all that off. And then from there, you'll be able to get your mount out of the way. That's going to be 14mm sockets. And then once you've got that out of the way, go ahead and uninstall your tensioner, and at that point you'll be able to pull your belt off and stuff. Now when I come back, I'm going to show you what TDC looks like with the timing cover removed and where the marks are on your camshaft pulley and your crankshaft pulley. Alright folks, so where were we? Let's see. We've got our power steering pump removed, right? You've got your alternator disconnected partially. You don't need it fully disconnected. You just need to get the tensioner and the tensioner arm and all that out of the way. Get the belt out of the way. You've got your water pump pulley off. At this point, you've also already gone ahead and got your engine supported. You've got your mount out. You've got your secondary belt off. Remember, the tensioner pulley for that is underneath the AC compressor. And you've got your mount out. I think I've already said that. And so at that point, you can go ahead and go underneath through the bottom here. Now there's going to be a plastic shield. Go ahead and remove that plastic shield and you'll have access to your 22mm crankshaft bolt. Go ahead and take your main crank bolt out, and then you should be able to get your harmonic balancer, aka crankshaft pulley, off. On this vehicle, there's not really any room to get a special tool in there, nor is it set up for a special tool, so you should be able just to kind of grab it and wiggle it off. You may have to wrestle it a little bit. At that point, I want to show you per the timing gears where TDC is. And so if you can see here, you're going to line that up with that little nipple that you see on the top right there. Above, you see the painted gear? So you're going to line that up right there, as you can see. And then you're going to come up top here, and this is basically your timing mark right here. So on the camshaft, you're going to want this to be at 12 o'clock. So 12 o'clock on the camshaft, and then go down here on your crank. You'll have a painted mark there, and you're going to line that up with that spot on the engine right there. Now, after that, you know you've got TDC. A good way to double check TDC is to look down into cylinder number 1, and if you have a light to look down there with, you should be able to see with your naked eye basically the top of the cylinder down in there. So just go ahead and confirm that you have TDC. Another way to check that you have top dead center before you start pulling the timing is to, before you pull your harmonic balancer, go ahead and check it. So right here you have 10 degrees before TDC. When you see this mark lined up with this mark, then you know you're at TDC. So you have a few different ways to check and confirm TDC, which is top dead center, which is something you absolutely have to do and set before you ultimately pull that timing belt. Now, once you've got all that set, then you can go ahead and start. You want to start with your timing tensioner, get that out. Go ahead and get your timing idler out, pull your timing belt off, pull your water pump off, and get that out. Then from there, start everything in reverse. Go ahead and get your water pump on, and your tensioner, and your idler, and get your timing belt in. Now this is where it gets tricky. In order to get your timing belt in, you need to set your tensioner. You can take a pry bar or something like that, and you're going to pry and push. Let me see if I can get in here for you. Okay, you're going to want to pull or push this tensioner all the way back so that it's sitting like you see there. Alright, and if you notice, there's the... See if I can get you in there. Come on. Okay. Let's see, let's go underneath here. See if we can get a better view of the tensioner. There's the tensioner now, right there. That bolt right there, that's what you're going to want to set. And you're going to want to set it like that. So that way, when you loosen it, it goes ahead and sets itself. I'm going to show you that right now. That's going to be a 12 millimeter bolt. And you're going to get down in here with a long socket. Alright, and after you have your timing belt slid back on, and it's not much of a fight. If you have TDC set accordingly per the crankshaft gear and the camshaft gear, sliding the timing belt off and on is not too big of a deal. Alright, so here we go. We're going to set our tensioner now. There it goes, you see? Alright. Now the belt is tight. And we're just going to double check our marks that nothing's moved. Everything's good. Everything's good. Okay? Because sometimes you'll install them and that tensioner has so much oomph, we'll call it, from the spring. This is a spring-loaded tensioner that it'll sometimes cause it to jump a tooth or come off a tooth or something like that. So now that's good. All you need to do from there is go ahead and retighten that that bolt. Also, go ahead and while you're reinstalling the tensioner and the belt, get your mount reinstalled, get all that reinstalled. Now our next step is to go ahead and get our timing covers reinstalled. But first, I'm going to go ahead and double check all my work inside of here. Make sure that everything is set the way it's supposed to be. I want to double check that everything is tightened down and torqued and all that other good stuff. So I'm going to do that. I'll be right back. Alright, so I've got my lower timing cover installed now. Those are going to be 10 millimeter bolts. I've got my harmonic balancer, also known as my crankshaft pulley, reinstalled along with my 22 millimeter bolt. Okay, I've got my alternator set back up, and here soon I'll go ahead and get my power steering pump reinstalled, and then my engine mount. One thing I wanted to try to show you, once you have everything halfway put back together like this, if you can, set yourself up so that you can turn the engine over and watch it as it turns over. Okay? Now remember, because of the difference in the size of the pulleys internally, the timing pulleys, the crank being smaller than the camshaft, it takes 2 full rotations on the crankshaft to equal 1 full rotation on the camshaft. So right now, we've gone 1 full rotation on the bottom half of the engine, and we're going to go 1 more full rotation to bring it back around to TDC. And we're going to check it down here per our mark. And that should be right about where we need to be at. I'm sorry if the lighting's bad, but we're lined up on our crank down there. Actually, we'll bring it to about right there. All right. And so we've brought everything back up to where it was. We've turned the engine over at least 1 full rotation. So what that means is we've turned it over 2 full rotations on the bottom half per the crankshaft, 1 full rotation on the top half. While I was turning the engine over, I was also feeling to make sure that it turns over smooth and there's not going to be any valve to piston contact. If the engine turns over smooth by hand, then you're good to go ahead and button it up, finish up the job. You should have no issues with starting it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and get my top cover on, get my mount, and a few other things going here.